Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to Paws On Animation.
Just in time for October, we're covering the first animated Hellboy movie, Sword of Storms.
Yes, and this movie finds Hellboy traveling to Japan to destroy two ancient beings, Thunder and Lightning,
Yes, they're
only
real.
to be trapped in another dimension. Sounds like Pokemon.
Right? And before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to some future podcasts and want to pause videos.
Absolutely. And this is one we've been wanting to cover for a while as well. If you joined us during Superhero Month in July, you know we did the two live action movies.
Right. And so this month we're covering the two animated movies and the reboot movie that should have never been called that. So then we've covered pretty much every Hellboy movie up until the Crooked Man, which comes out sometime later.
And if you want us to cover any of the graphic novels, let us know in the comments below.
Right. So, I know you have the case with you for Sword of Storms and Blood and Iron. It was a 2-disc combo pack. So, what does it read on the back of the cover for Sword of Storms?
In the first animated feature from director Ted Stones, who did Buzz Lightyear Star Command,
Ooh, a good one.
a folklore professor becomes unwittingly possessed by the ancient Japanese demons of thunder and lightning. But when the Bureau of Paranormal Research and Defense dispatches a team of agents to investigate, a cursed samurai sword sends Hellboy to a supernatural dimension of ghosts, monsters, and feudal mayhem. Now, while by pyrokinetic, Liz Sherman and Fish Boy, yes it says
The
that,
Fish Boy!
Abe Sapien battle one very pissed off dragon. A lost and cranky Hellboy must find a way home, even if he can survive the perilous journey. How much crap does a guy have to put up with from the two most vengeful and ferocious spirits of Japanese legend? Yes, what I read is exactly what's on this page.
Right. Like, even the description is lacking our attitude. So, for here, this was the very first one. We watched in order the first two live actions and the two animated ones. It looks like the pattern here was going to be maybe one movie a year, almost like how DC was doing. And up until the separation with Guillermo del Toro and Mike Mignola, we were going to have a whole series of animated movies as connected to the live action. Now, in here, speaking of which, Mike Mignola and Guillermo del Toro directed both this and Blood and Iron, and it's supposed to continue in the same version as the live action movies. So much so they even got a lot of the actors from the movie to reprise their roles in animated form. You got Ron Perlman returning as Hellboy.
There's no other Hellboy.
Right. You got Doug Jones returning as Abe Sapien. You got Selma Blair as Liz Sherman. John Hurt joins in the second movie. He kind of narrates the first one, but he's not Brumhold in the first one. He comes in the second movie. So you're kind of missing him visually in the first one.
Well, I think it's interesting in this one is that the characters look more like in the comic, especially Liz. She looks nothing like in the live action movies.
Right.
Nor what she looks like in the second movie, Blood and
Iron. Yeah. And yeah, that was a huge difference. A lot of people know this because especially when you watch the live action and you read the comics, she looks nothing like her character. So this was actually way more closer to her original design, which is probably a relief because I think that might have pissed off some people on how she differed from how she looked.
It was also interesting here that there was no ship
Right.
between the two characters.
Right. It was completely different as it was in the comics.
And it seems kind of more like she had a thing for Abe.
Right. And read quite a few of the comics already and not sure if that was in the book or that's decided what they want to go with instead. But either way, it's interesting that they decided to do that anyway. Mm-hmm. And for here, the movie isn't too long. It's a little shorter than Blood and Iron, maybe by 10 minutes. But when you watch it, it feels like it's way longer. Not in terms of dragging on, but of it being engaging.
Definitely.
And the thing is, it also has a much different tone to it. Both movies are great, but out of the two, Blood and Iron is considered the best out of both because of how intense it is. Sword of Storms kind of was like a test run in a way. It's a different feel. You still get the monster battles and the fighting and everything and the supernatural, but they kind of spread it out throughout the movie. There's a lot of quiet moments in there, especially when Hellboy gets transported to the spirit realm and is trying to get out. It kind of stays calm for a lot of the movie when he's just walking through. There are points that has action in there when you have Liz and Abe trying to figure out where Hellboy went. And then on Hellboy's side, every place he stops at, some creature tries to kill him. To a point where he doesn't even try talking to them. He just tries to keep going, keep walking. Oh, would you like to join me? No, no thanks. I'm going. I'm keep going. Oh, you want to rest? No, I'll sleep outside. I'm going to keep going. And they still attack him, even though he's like, no, thank you. He doesn't want to. He knows it's a trap. He doesn't want to do anything. He's like, I just want to keep going, get out of here. And they still go and attack him. I'm like, dang, we're just going to do it anyway. It's like, you just feel bad because he just wants to get out and everything wants to attack him. They can't trick him, so they just screw it. Just kill him.
Now, to me, when watching it, this felt like more of a vehicle to showcase Liz and her powers.
Yeah, because she used her powers quite a bit in this movie more than the second one. And the tone of it was more of seeing the characters, how they are, and how they interact with each other. And they weren't as much as a team in this one because Hellboy was separated from the others, so you really didn't get that feel until the second movie. And I could understand that being a sort of thing against it. Not so much where you can enjoy it, but you miss that teamwork aspect that the books end up having later, because in the beginning it was there, then decided, well, we kind of want him by himself and had him roaming across the globe, and then later on they actually had them all back together as a team because people actually like that aspect way more than just him on his own.
I agree.
So it looks like they wanted to have more of that on screen rather than the book of giving you BPRD team instead of just Hellboy on his own. So they kind of had a mix of it in here.
And they were smart enough to have the badass theme.
Right, from the movie, from the live
I
action.
love that song. I love that music. It's just fantastic. Unfortunately, the reboot had no sense. They didn't have sense enough to use it. And it was one of the worst things that they could have ever chosen to do. For me, it reminds me of the Mortal Kombat reboot movie. The movie was fine, but they didn't play the Mortal Kombat theme that has become so iconic.
Right.
This music is iconic. This theme is iconic. And I really hope for the Crooked Man they go back to it. I really
hope so, because that's the only thing that really fits with this. They kept on re-editions, but they never seem to really stick with you as well as the first one.
Definitely.
And another thing in here is that they actually adapted things from the comics. Well, they didn't do like a one-to-one or anything like take the comics and animate them because they had to change the style. But they actually had a point where they actually used one of the shorter stories where Hellboy was somewhere in Japan by himself and actually put that line for line in the movie. Since he was by himself in there, it didn't conflict with anything. And it was a scene where he looked like he was in some sort of, maybe a geisha house or something, and they were telling him a story that wasn't funny. It was supposed to be funny, but it wasn't. It was dark, and he's like, oh yeah, that's really funny. I think I'm gonna go to bed now. And he ends up encountering some floating heads, and it's a direct thing from the comics where it's a standalone story. And some lines are lifted from different standalone stories in the comic as well, and they end up being put together to make a new story. And the villains, Thunder and Lightning, were actually based off some sketches McNolan had done. He had done just for fun. And later on they said, well, why don't you turn this into a story? It was never written in the comic, but you could turn this into a story. And that's kind of what they've been doing. Turning sketches he just did for fun, free time, during quarantine, decided, let's turn these sketches into their own stories because there's just way more material in here. And that's how they created the movie.
Awesome. I really did enjoy watching it, and like you said, Blood and Iron is my favorite, but this movie has its reasons for have accolades as well.
Right.
It's really good. It's a standout, especially during the time in 2006 when it came out. You didn't have animated movies that were being made like this.
Right.
And it was the Kickstarter for other people copying the style of these Hellboy animated movies.
Right.
Now they're a common theme.
Yeah.
However, they still don't have the quality that these two movies have, both Sword of Stones and Blood and Iron. It's
Right.
not the same quality. It's just not the same experience.
Right.
And they don't have Ron Perlman.
Right, exactly. So you're watching something totally different. And it does have quite a few humorous moments. It's nothing like it's really goofy and silly, but like there's some moments when it's calmed down. They'll crack some jokes or say some things about Hellboy, you know, or his eating habits or something. They have some points of levity, but they keep it to a point where the tone stays the same, but you have something funny before crap hits the fan. And one of the best signs, besides the one of him not wanting to talk to anything in that realm because he knew they were going to eat him, was when everything was over. You know, he had just been nothing but fighting and walking for hours. When everything was over, he said, "I want some breakfast, I want some aspirin, and I want to go to sleep." And that's what his last line in the movie, because he had just been through everything. Like, I'm done for today.
Little did you know, Blood and Iron was going to
Right.
So this is really a fantastic movie. If you haven't seen any Hellboy movies at all, whether it's live action or animated, Sword and Stone.
Yeah.
Yes, is a good one to start with. It really is, because Blood and Iron it's a crazy ride.
Right.
This one's not as crazy, but you get to get a feel for what the franchise itself is about. You get this animation. You can see kind of what the comics themselves, graphic novels, comics, look like as well.
Right.
And you get an idea of what to expect from the other movies by watching this one. This is just a great first start if you haven't seen it.
Right.
But if you have seen Sword of Stones,
Not Sword in the Stone, Sword of Storms.
Hellboy's first animated movie, let us know what you think in the comments below. If you haven't seen it, again, it's a great first movie to watch for the franchise. Come back and let us know what you think as well.
Right. Oh, and one more important thing is that there's a lot of flashing in here when it gets to the villains.
Oh, yeah.
When there's a thunder and lightning, there's a lot of flashing in the backstory and when the villains show up. So if you have any sensitivities or prone to seizures, you might want to look away and just listen to the backstory, or maybe fast forward, because it happens about 2 or 3 times in the movie and it can get distracting or dangerous. So just keep that in mind when you watch it.
Absolutely.
And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates when you visit your favorite anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate you joining us and sharing things that we love to watch and read and so much more with you.
Yes.
And if you have any suggestions, let us know in the comments below. If you have some requests for either manga or animation or live action movies. And the last thing I want to add about this movie is another reason it's a great first movie is because they go over the Hellboy backstory
In the opening, yeah.
so that you don't have to watch the others. You get the whole story in here.
Right. So, thank you so much for watching Mask Entertainment.
And Mom Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace.